Hey loves, thank you for tapping back into my YouTube channel. This one is a follow-up video requested by you, the community members, coming out of my yam head reflection video that I did a couple days ago, about a week ago. If you haven't watched that yet, the description section will have the link so you can click it to rewatch. I'm actually traveling and I don't want to keep putting off doing this video for you until the perfect time. So I'm choosing right now to get it done. So what was the question that you asked me? My community wanted to know, coming out of those series of yamhead experiences and mistakes and blunders in relationship, what did I learn and how did I use those things that I learned to make better decisions moving forward? In essence, developing my red flags. So I did share that I have some red flags coming out of relationships to make sure that I don't make the same mistake twice. The joke was not to plant the same yam twice. So I'm sharing some of those red flags with you in the hopes that they will be helpful. Now, quick disclaimer. I'm not sharing the red flags to give you a reason to judge people, to assess them almost unfairly, looking for perfection and finding flaws in every part of their character and their past. Why I develop red flags or a list of things that I'm looking out for is so that I can identify early where we are aligned and where we are misaligned, and if there's room for us to have conversation, get on the same page, determine a way forward where we're accepting the flaws and we're just gonna see that each person is this way and we're willing to work with it. At least we can make those decisions consensually. I don't believe in being forced to struggle. Forced, tricked, or scammed emotionally into enduring hardships in a relationship. If I see that there are certain flaws and certain shortcomings and we're able to have a conversation openly about it, I know that you're committed to growth. I know it's something you're working on. I know it's something hard for you to tackle, but I'm able to decide that with this information and seeing this about you, I would still like to continue in a relationship with you. It feels more like a choice. And the thing about red flags is people will hide the issues that they have because you're trying to put on the best show. They want to look like the very best candidate to be in your life and they don't want you to see the real them. And it's months, sometimes years after you're in a relationship, the real person shows up. And you genuinely do not know what to do with that because that's not the person you entered a relationship with. Those principles were not the one that you thought they had. Those habits, those perspectives and ways of doing things, that future plan, that vision, their view of you, how they are treating you, how they respond to or fail to respect you. That's not the person you were introduced to and that's not the person you chose. So these red flags, looking out for them for me, help me to see the truest version of the person, their actual nature, and the programming behind what they're thinking. I know everybody not going to know what all their flaws are, and I know that sometimes people genuinely are trying to work on an issue and don't want to throw that out there in the beginning of a relationship. Probably turn off the person that they're dating or trying to date. So I come into this with an eye for compassion, and I know I have my flaws as well. So I don't want anybody to finish watching this video and think that it is a way to judge people and to set up perfection as a goal and then force people to try to reach a measure of perfection, which is unfair. It's about aligning on principle, knowing what your principles are, what you value in a relationship, what you want and what you don't want. And then ensuring that both you and your partner or potential partner can get on the same page as quickly as possible. Nobody likes to feel tricked, nobody likes to feel deceived, and the sooner we know who the real person is that we're in a relationship with, is the more we can get comfortable, vulnerable, and truly start to grow together. Because there's always going to be room for growth, and I don't think you're ever going to meet somebody who is the perfect candidate, meeting a list of characteristics that you have on paper. And even if they are, please know that you're meeting them in a season and they're gonna grow. So you have to be clear that when they're growing past those things, you're also committed to growing with them into that new season, into that better, higher version of themselves. So here are my red flags. I'm going to share 4 of them with you. 4 that I think all of us can relate to, and the 4 that also have been the most useful and meaningful for me. So the first red flag that I look for, and the way that I get that on the discussion table, is around my partner's relationship with their mother. One of the questions I asked very early is for them to tell me about that relationship. Talk to me about the relationship with your mommy. And I do that because I'm dating inside my culture, which is the Jamaican culture. And overwhelmingly, households are run by women. Even if you have both man and woman in the home, the mother is often the dominant figure. If only for child rearing, mommy has greater and heightened contact with the child more often than not. And in my experience, the persons I've dated were either coming out of single parent homes, or even if they had father in the home, mommy played a dominant role in their upbringing, establishing principles, teaching them about themselves, because daddy would be working a lot, and the child care duties are just shifted to mommy. So children come into an understanding of themselves first through their primary caregivers. And I know in my culture, that is mommy. But even more than that, no matter what the culture is that you come from, the first school of love is the home. So it's always important for me to know what you're learning in your first school of love. I am willing to talk about what I've learned in my first school of love in my home. And I encourage anybody that I'm thinking about dating or actually in a relationship with to share with me what that experience was like in the home. How your mommy spoke to you. What sense of agency and power you think you had. Was your voice respected? Were you treated as an individual? Did you feel seen? Did you feel heard? Did you feel loved? And I ask that because however you are treated by the primary caregiver helps you to establish a sense of who you are. And if you don't get clarity on that as a child, you spend a lot of your life trying to figure that out. If it is not a stable household that you're coming from, where emotional support was given, emotional safety, and actual care, because not because you have a caregiver in the home means that somebody's actually taking care of you. Too many children raise themselves even with an adult in the home. So this idea that you can be cared for, you can be protected, and also watching how your mother is cared for or protected sometimes by your father, it tells you what women are expecting from men. It tells you how men are supposed to treat women, what women will accept, what women think about themselves, and also what your mother tells you as a man about what to look for in a woman and what it means for you to be a man. Those things inform how you're going to show up as a man in a relationship. So when I ask people that question, I hear the stories about the trauma, about the abuse, about the love, about the care, about the respect. I get to learn what principles they have picked up from their mother, if they're carrying any resentment from mommy. And I'll give you an example. There have been experiences, and I've had that experience, not personally, but I know somebody who I've had to interact with them going through that with a partner. Because that man grew up in a home where he felt powerless. He couldn't make any decisions for himself. He was not respected. Nobody saw him as worthy. Feeling powerless as a child, he's looking to gain power. He's looking to feel like somebody. He's looking to feel like a man. And so he goes into relationships with women and then exerts that power on them in ways that equal abuse, whether it's verbal abuse, physical abuse. And in his mind, the woman has done something to disrespect him or disregard him. But ultimately what he was grappling with was feeling like he had no power growing up as a child, no sense of agency, can't use his voice, nobody cares about what he wants to say, nobody makes him feel like he has bodily integrity or control over himself, nobody respected his boundaries. And so as a man, to regain that sense of power, to make up for the feeling of powerlessness right through childhood, violence and aggression and verbal abuse was that tool. And who you're gonna take it out on? The female in your life, closest to you, which is the girlfriend or the wife. So knowing that very early and picking up if there's any kind of resentment towards mommy and the views that you've developed about women because of how your mother treated you or did not treat you, is oftentimes a very useful cue for me. I know for sure it's a useful cue for me to tell me what your true views are about women and what you're looking for in a relationship. Another reason why that question is important is because the care function that mommy played A lot of men are looking for that kind of caring relationships with their spouse or partner. Mommy didn't show them how to take care of themselves, so sometimes they don't know how to cook, they don't know how to clean up after themselves, they don't know how to wash clothes, they don't know how to iron. And so when they're looking for a spouse, they're actually looking for someone to fill that mother role, because mother didn't teach them how to be independent. So any woman who comes into his life is expected to play the role of mother at maximum, which is unhealthy, and at minimum as helper. So I want to know very clearly, very early. When I ask, it's not just for you to tell me that mommy was the greatest and mommy was my hero. I'll ask that question a series of times. I'll share my stories so you understand what I want to hear from you or what I'm asking you. So I can figure out how you see women, how you see yourself in relation to women, what you want from a woman, and what you expect from a woman, and how you will treat her. Another reason why that's important ultimately is because it tells you what love is supposed to look and feel like. So if in the home people would be beating you and then telling you that they love you, you can understand why a man grows up beating his own children, abusing his girlfriend or his wife, and feeling like you can do that and still love the person. Because so many of us, men and women, grew up in homes where you were told that you're being beaten because I love you, and if you never do this, you wouldn't get no beaten. And we learn that as children and grow up to be adults who do the same thing to our children, and in other scenarios to other adults. So I ask because I want to get a sense of the background, and depending on what you said to me about your mommy, it can come up to me as a red flag that you're looking, you have a particular view of women that I don't find healthy, that makes me feel unsafe, or that says to me you're not sure what you're looking for in a woman separate from what you're looking for in your mother. The second red flag for me is around your previous relationship. So I ask further down in the dating process, I want to know the circumstances under which your previous relationship came to an end. And this is not for you to discuss the girl with me, to tell me about her flaws, to tell me how she's awful and terrible and she's ungrateful and all of those things, which men tend to do when you ask them about their ex, or if you don't ask and they start to talk about their ex, it is often in a way that is disparaging because they think you need to hear something bad so you can feel good about yourself. That's not why I'm asking. I ask you about how your previous relationship ended because I want to hear what role you are playing in that relationship. If at any point you are taking responsibility for what has happened, what did not happen, and what went wrong. Too often, men and women, I'm not localizing this to just men, but men and women, when they talk about a previous relationship, you will get the feeling that they were angels, that they were blessings, that they made no mistakes at all, and it's the other person who did not appreciate what they had. It's the other person that was just bad and evil and wicked and untrustworthy. And that I find to be a very dishonest review of any relationship, especially a long-term relationship. If you can pick up in there nothing at all that you would have done wrong to contribute to the situation, to co-create the conflict, failing to resolve the conflict in a healthy manner, if you have played no role at all, it is a big red flag to me that you might not be able to take responsibility for your behavior. And that can sometimes show up in a relationship as a partner who gaslights you. So you say to your partner, I feel a particular way, I think a certain thing, what you did has impacted me this way, and they turn around and tell you that it's because you're too sensitive. It's because you misread it and you're looking at it wrong. And it's not their fault to manage your feelings, and you need to figure out why that is offensive to you because in another relationship this was not. So they tell you all the reasons that they have made no mistake and cannot contemplate actually causing you harm or making a mistake or an error. That does not work for me. I'm big on communication. I like to talk things through. I'm open always to apologizing, and in loving relationships, I forgive with ease once I'm clear that the person understands the impact on me, regrets it, and this is a loving relationship we're talking about, not strangers, regrets the harm that they have caused to me, and is working on not making that happen again. So that is another red flag. What you tell me about the reason that your previous relationship has ended or had ended. My third red flag is kind of related to that, because when I asked the question about the closure of one chapter or the previous chapter, as I said, it opens the door for you to tell me about the person that you used to be with. What do you use that opportunity to say about someone who you profess to love for months, if not years, somebody you lay down beside who was vulnerable with you, do you take that as an opportunity to disrespect them, to disparage them, to bring them down in my sight, particularly with the intention of making me feel like I'm better than them? Emotionally, I don't operate that way. I don't come to the table with a sense of lack and a big vacuum or a hole in me to be filled with affirmation from a man that I'm better than other women. And so many men prey on the inadequacies of women. Socially, we're taught to compete with each other. So it's very natural for a man to think that he's getting in your good graces as a female by telling you how much better you are compared to others, especially his ex. It feeds the ego when you're hearing how amazing and fantastic you are. But that's not something I need to feel confident in myself, to feel lovable, to feel worthy and adequate. In fact, it tells me whether or not I can trust you to actually be a safe space for private, personal, and sensitive information. I can't trust anybody who steps out of a relationship with somebody and with ease breaches that person's privacy and confidence. For me, it's a big no-no. You can't have those discussions with me. And if I see you going there once, I'll correct you. Twice, I'll correct you again. 3 times is when I really count it as a no-fly zone. Not only is it gossipy, people think that is only women engage in gossiping. That is a form of gossip. But not only is it gossipy, I cannot appreciate and respect someone who can discuss in such disparaging ways behind their back somebody that you said you loved at one point. It tells me that you probably don't know what love is. And 2, it also tells me that you think so little of me that you believe my sense of worthiness hinges on somebody else being brought down. So that's a big red flag for me. And I've learned that over the years because I got caught in one instance hearing all the things that the other person had done wrong and how terrible and awful they were and how I was so much better in these ways, not recognizing that it was a form of manipulation to get me to do things in the process of competing with somebody else. Luckily, I didn't get caught in the competition trap, but in the moment they were doing it, I didn't recognize why they were doing it. So I brushed it off, and then over time I recognized it was a pattern of behavior to make you feel compelled to do what they wanted to do. So yeah, learned that through experience, and it became a red flag for me from there. And the final red flag that I want to share with you is around love and the person's ability to describe for me what they mean when they say they love me. I've been doing a lot of reading, reflection, meditation, and practice around the elements and the components of love, what makes for a loving relationship, what I mean when I say I love somebody, what I accept from somebody who says they love me. Not just love languages, but the love practice. And I've shared in previous videos what I consider to be the ingredients, like how I know it is true love. There are some ingredients that are present there. So if you're interested in that video, I've also put the description, in the description bar, the link for you to watch that video on how I know it is true love. Now, it's not some big prescription that I think the world needs to follow, but I share it with you because I know there are not many conversations happening to help us define love properly, and so many of us are having to figure this out on our own. We're learning about love from people whose hearts have been broken, and so the things they're telling us that love is or love is not comes from a place of hurt. So you will hear people tell you that love is pain because in their home, that's what they learned. That pain and love can coexist. In fact, it is a necessary feature of love. And then they end up in relationships that are defined by pain and continue to tell themselves that that is love. And so they stay in the pain relationship longer. Heart is broken and they don't recognize that they were in an unloving space. They relate that pain from the heartbreak to love and end up telling you that love is pain. So I'm very careful who I learn my love lessons from, and to be honest with you, I'm having to unlearn a lot of those and relearn them in this stage of my life. But one of the ways that I'm able to clarify for me what I am looking for in a relationship is what I tell my partner or potential partner that love means to me, and then to hear from them when they say they love me or love somebody else. What does that mean? What does that look like? If you only liked me, how does that look different from when you love me? And I mean, I don't knock somebody that discusses, the material element of it. So the gift giving and spending money and extravagant experiences. That's a part of love language, the gift giving, right? So I don't knock anybody for starting at the material space. But I want to know that you understand beyond the love language, the quality, the recipe, the practice of love. It also helps you to tell me when I'm not doing what feels like love for you, so that I can make a conscious effort to love you in ways that you will understand. So it gives us I think, solid ground for us to build on. And so far, in practice, it has been helpful. It's not a foolproof system, so it's not something that if you use these red flags, you'll never end up in a relationship that is unsuccessful or unhealthy. But there are some things that I save myself in terms of time and potential trauma by looking for very, very early. And that's why I establish red flags, because I want to see early and as clearly as possible the kind of character I'm entering a relationship with, the principles that drive you, the conscious and subconscious belief that you have about love, about women, about your own self-worth, and whether or not you're committed to growth, or if you're a kind of static person where this is what it is and I saw it done. So the red flags that I've developed help me in those scenarios. So just to go over them again, how I identify the red flags, the questions, the scenarios, the purpose. One, a red flag for me is the relationship that you have with your mother. If it is overly toxic, unnecessarily hateful, full of resentment, that's a red flag for me. I understand the role that a caregiver plays in helping you to understand yourself and develop a loving practice and a loving view of your own worth. And if that is compromised, it's going to be so hard for you to find love for a woman when your first woman, the first woman in your life, you have difficulties coming to terms with that relationship. You haven't healed, you're still hurting. That is going to be transferred to me. Second, the terms under which your last couple of breakups happened, just to hear if you are somebody who takes responsibility for your behavior. Additionally, I want to know early how you treat people's trust and people's confidence, if it's something that you breach just to get further ahead in a relationship with somebody else. And then finally, your ability to define and to frame what love means and looks like for you. It means that you're clear on what you want. It means that you have standards for yourself. It means that you're not settled on a superficial view of what it is. And the more settled you are knowing what you're looking for, is a firmer the foundation that we can build a relationship on. Again, not foolproof, but so far it has helped me to kind of sift through, make big decisions about entering and exiting relationships, and being very clear about the principle on which I'm doing it, and what I'm seeing, the risk I'm managing, the harm I'm avoiding, the trauma that I'm either disengaging from or avoiding altogether. I can make those decisions very early and protect myself. So if those red flags sound like they are useful for you or something that you would want to put in practice, let me know in the comments. And if there's any red flag that you have that you'd like to share with the community, please feel free to do that. I would love to hear where you are when you're looking at red flags and assessing character and suitability of suitors. What are some of the things that you are looking for? I have a few more, but I'll stop at the 4. And perhaps in another video, I'll give you 4 more. Actually, I have a list. My list has about 10 things that I'm particularly looking at. And as I say, the red flag can be raised, and I still decide to move ahead in the relationship because I see where it's something that you're working on and open to growing and healing through, right? But at least I know it exists and I can make a conscious decision to work with you through it. Consensual struggle, right? Not the forced, concealed one where you're in it because love is pain. I'm not about that life at all. So, looking forward to the comments, and if you haven't already, remember to like the video, share it with somebody who could be useful for, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video on our page. Let me know in the comments as well if there's any other thing you'd like me to tackle. I'm open to sharing more around this love issue. We're still in the month of February, so I'm maximizing the love talk for those who find it useful and helpful in their own life and love practice. So love and love alone, light always to you. Take care.